Hi, welcome back to SGGT. I'm Scott with James and Aaron. We're all fitters here at SGGT, and we're going to have a discussion around the irons for 2024. Season's coming to an end. It's what's been good, what's going to say bad, that's unfair, but what's worked, what's been good. Aaron, any standouts?
It's been a year of variety, isn't it? There's loads of stuff in the iron market. Taylormade, I think it's fair to say, their product range is, I mean, it's excellent. You've got 790, the new 770 has only been out for again half the year, but it's been a standout this back half. Titleist T100, T150, and the T200 have been three really good products in there, and actually you have to put Srixon 7 and 5, ZX7 and 5 in there.
Yeah. I think we speak of Taylormade, you almost missed P7CB as well. I think we've done about QI10, but P7CB for a better player looks amazing. It feels amazing. It's actually surprisingly fast off the face for what it is as well.
Yeah, it's really stable as well.
Yeah.
Really stable. But it is surprisingly quick. Easy to blend as well with the 770s because of the lofts.
I think that's
all sensible.
That's been good this year. I think when you look at Taylormade from previous years, 770 almost feels like it's quite fast off the face.
Yeah.
So if you put a 4-iron or 5-iron in at the bottom of a set of MCs or whatnot, it felt really quick off the face. Whereas this year it's almost felt the other way. 770 feels really soft, so it almost blends in with that better player set a little bit better.
770 in years gone by has always just been a slightly smaller 790, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Now it is that better player iron.
I feel like previously you're blending them for the sake of blending them, whereas now it feels, or certainly in certain cases, that's unfair, there's definitely times it's worked, but I think when you look at it across the piece, it now there's mileage and why you would do it. It's do you get enough ball speed, do you get enough peak height out of CB in the bottom end, and it's no, what will let's cheat 770 in there. And it's definitely became a contender for that, I would say.
One of the only reasons as well we should say is, like, the only reason we can do that is Dell Matrix's 468 wedge. So like when we're testing, it's really easy that we can actually have a shot of that and make sure that if we need a bit more ball speed, it's then real. Aaron
touched on Srixon there as well, James. What's your findings? How do you like it?
The Tour V sole is lovely. So for the right type of golfer, and what I found was, like, shallower golfers who've got like a slightly shallower attack angle, that Tour V sole really got through the ground properly. Felt nice. Plenty ball speed for having a head that doesn't actually have a ball speed story. And again, if we needed to blend them a little bit, the top line was just the same size. So really quite easy to put them all together.
I think there was always a really good discovery moment when you take the Srixon and you go out onto the grass. You hit the ball off the grass and then the customer just looks at you and goes, what was that?
How did that head get down through the ground?
I think even going back years, we started off Srixon, before you guys were here, we had 745s and 6s and 8s, and then we've moved throughout the models. The one thing that's remained consistent, that sole's always been there, but the feel and everything about it, they've kind of really progressed as a range. They've got the blade at the bottom that nobody's ever going to do millions of. For the right golfer, it's an amazing golf club, but across the piece, as I say, you're not going to do millions. ZX5 in relation to previous models, but I think when they first came in, it got smaller. So ZX5 used to be, our first generation was quite big. Second generation, it got smaller. It almost feels like second generation ZX5 was like a ZX6. It wasn't quite as big as a 5, it was closer to that 7.
It's a really clean looking head, isn't it? Really nice.
I really enjoyed using them this year. Anything else? Titleist. You spoke about that, Aaron. What do you like?
Titleist, the 100s, 150s and 200s. Just three really good options for slightly different ball flights. If you want someone needing a little bit more ball speed, that T200 is a super option, feels good. The 150s and the 100s, you're going to get a little bit more spin out of them. So if someone's kind of struggling with peak height, it's a great option just to chuck in.
That wee 350 on the end of that as well, though. So if same sort of thing, if we need a bit more ball speed in that longer iron, it was really quite good to get that ball up in the air. And like with a 350 this year, it was a different finish. It was a different finish in sort of previous one, and that T300, and it didn't really lend itself to blending. But the finish is consistent all the way through, so you don't look like you're playing something else. Like that's been a really interesting thing this year as well.
Years ago, I was over in California with Titleist at TPI, well, we were Boki, and we got a Q&A with the R&D guys at the end of it. And that was one of the questions that was brought up, how would you make a range better? And that was one of the points that was raised, that all week they spoke about, from an iron standpoint, about blending sets, but what they had was shiny chrome that then progressed into this dull kind of cast T300, and it never really ran in a line. So they kept trying to blend the set, but they never really had a club to blend it, whereas it looks like they've taken that on board and it's made a big difference. Cobra. The kind of, I see from a range, it's not spoken about enough. I think if you ask me the nicest looking iron in that bay, could have hit it 100% not with my ball striking. But that Cobra MB, it doesn't get any prettier than that.
Yeah, it's a bonny looking club.
And then they've got CB.
CB's nice as well. CB's
and then
gorgeous.
The King Tour, I think we've done really well with. I think that's been a brilliant iron.
King Tour was excellent. That was
probably
really
one of the fastest irons for the size in there.
I think when you look at 6-iron lofts, I think that's something we'll speak about as well, but Cobra King Tour at 28 degrees on a 6-iron, it's a little bit stronger, but you still get the launch you're getting with the others, but you then get those ball speed bits to go with it. So that's been cracking.
Ever so slightly broader sole on those Cobra irons as well. There's a little bit more bounce, it's a bit more rounded. So for somebody who's maybe like a little bit steeper through impact, I found that sole worked really quite well, whereas like the Srixon sole, that Tour V, for the shallow guy, certainly in my experience, the shallow guy went Srixon, but the slightly steeper guy, the Cobra sole was excellent. That was good.
While we're on Cobra, irons and lofts. When the dark speed iron came out, this must have came in on one of my days off. I'll never forget Harry coming in and telling me that he's hitting a 7-iron 220 yards or whatever it was. I had to remind Harry that the loft of the 7-iron is no longer a 7-iron.
Not anywhere close.
And I'm going to be the first one to say that that's the iron that was the biggest struggle for me this year. The Cobra Dark Speed. On paper, the concept seems really good. It's really strong lofted. The issue is your average club golfer can't hit Cobra Dark Speed high enough to get any great results with it.
If you're fast enough to get that to a peak height, you're probably looking at a different category of iron.
If you've got the speed to launch and flight Cobra Dark Speed iron, the likelihood is you're not using a Cobra Dark Speed iron. And I think you're seeing lots of that. I'll take me on to the next bit. From a loft standpoint, the guy that's playing a game improvement iron, a lot of the time just now is they're really struggling to flight it. So for me, if you ask me where we're going, the big one for me this year that's been the biggest hit is the Mizuno Hot Metal High Launch. 923 was brilliant, 925 has been amazing. And the guy at slower speeds that needs a little bit of flight, what you find is so many golfers come in that can't hit 5 and 6 irons now. The issue is that a 5 and 6 iron at a game improvement standpoint is actually a 3 and a 4 or a 4 and a 5.
Clubs are getting so inherently difficult to spin.
So as opposed to the Cobra 6 iron being 24 degrees, the Mizuno's 28. So straight away you've got something that can go up into the sky.
Just more up in the air juice. Much easier to use,
Let's not make it difficult. How's the Mizuno range look? What do you think of that?
Again, really clean. 245 has been an absolute rocket launcher. I think when you put it down behind the ball, it looks really clean. It doesn't look like big and chunky.
From a distance, it looks like a blade.
Yeah, absolutely. But it feels really nice. Like some of the kind of hollow body irons, they can sound like a little bit clicky off the face, but like those 245s don't sound like that at all. It feels like a sort of fully forged single piece head, but
it sounds more flush, doesn't it?
It's lovely. Really
again,
nice.
The only thing with it, it's a slightly stronger lofted iron, you do need quite a lot of speed to flight 245, I would have said. I think your guy that's not got millions of speed is maybe not quite so easy to get up in the sky. And if I'm picking flaws with Mizuno, everything's went quite strong lofted with them. They've not got an iron, the blade's maybe slightly different, it's an outlier, but everything's 28 degrees and stronger. So if you're struggling to flight it, where you can cheat a T100 or whatnot into 30 degrees, or a Taylormade, that kind of way, you're kind of struggling a wee bit with Cobra. Mizuno. It's not quite as easy to flight as some of the others, but very good. 243's been brilliant. 245, I think somebody said Luke Donald's played it 3-iron all the way through wedge this year.
Full bag,
For a whole head iron to make it onto tour and be all the way through a set, I think speaks volumes of how good a club it is.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, when the hollow body came out, you wouldn't have thought a tour player would have adopted it.
All the way through.
Yeah, all the way through, yeah.
Long irons maybe.
Yeah, it's been in driving iron, 4-iron, but yeah, that's a testament.
Callaway, how we done? Been all right?
Callaway's been good. Same sort of thing like the Ai Smoke HL. A little bit more loft, easy to get the ball up in the air, nice broad sole for that golfer as well. That's one we've done really pretty well on, I would say.
We'd be talking more about Apex AI if it come out a little bit earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But so far so good on that. We've seen some really good returns.
I think that 200, like the AI 200,
stunning behind the ball.
Clean. It doesn't look like it doesn't look like how you'd expect it to. It looks more like kind of Apex Pro.
The AI 200 reminds me of CF16.
Yeah.
Aye.
Back in the day, Craigmiller Park, that was a big seller. That was a fan's favourite. We liked that. We've done loads of that once upon a time, and it feels like they've brought that back out again. It's a really nice iron.
CF16 was so hard to beat.
Yeah.
I think everyone's ranges, like, they've all been really pretty comprehensive, haven't they? So like Titleist with T series, there's a full series for everyone. Callaway with the new sort of Apex line, same sort of thing. There's an Apex for everyone. I think that's one of the things that we've seen more of, is like really complete sets of iron offerings.
And AI, the 300 is only 1 degree stronger per club, but it looks a bit bigger, it's a bit more confidence inspiring. If someone wants that kind of forged feel, but needs a bit more help, it's been
It's really good. Aye, no, definitely. The one that we maybe don't do millions of, but we've got some of the Japanese stuff. Miura, Epon, Pro Concept. What do we think? How is it? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it worth spending the extra money on? What do you think?
It feels amazing, and it's one of these things you just have to hit them. I've harped on like quite a bit about like sort of sole designs and things, and the Proto Concept irons having that like sort of like pre-worn leading edge, a little bit taken off the back. All those heads feel really, really nice. But if a golfer's maybe never heard of a brand like that, you're maybe not gonna. It's maybe not one that you're sort of drawn to, but as soon as you hit it, you think, well, here we go.
Miura's a bit more of a household name, but Proto Concept and Epon are still maybe a little bit fresher for people.
Definitely.
But you said the feel of them, I don't think you
just have to hit it.
You have to hit it.
Yeah.
I think Miura's good. Epon's really good for me. Proto Concept, I'm going to go rogue here. I think Miura's really, really good, but I think Proto Concept, it almost gives you the performance that you would get out of another iron, as well as the feel that you get out of Miura. I think that's a really good iron. I think Miura, from a feel standpoint, like, you're going to struggle to beat Epon the same.
Yeah.
Epon have got some irons that maybe give it a little bit more pop, but whereas I think that Proto Concept, the CO5 TC, I think like it's so fast off the face.
Yeah.
It looks how you'd want an iron to look, and the feel, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think if I could pick an iron to just hit 50 balls with, it's the AF-Tour from Epon.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be the boy.
Yeah, it sits nice behind the ball. It's not tiny, but it's just a good size, and it's just endo-forged, feels incredible.
Definitely.
So if you were to go and build yourself a set of golf clubs just now, and you can have anything out of stock that you want, what are you building?
Can I get someone else to build it?
I've been seen in the workshop yesterday. Probably for the best.
It's an Epon, some sort of Nippon modus. Get a nice feeling shaft. Yeah, that combination.
Yeah.
Or ZX7.
Right, okay. James?
I'm going graphite. I'm getting old.
Actually, 125. I may as well go game improvement at the same time.
some big chunky lads. I think
you need an AI Smoke to keep the ball down.
Who's worried about that? It just needs to feel good. I think if I'm going to make myself up something, Acra TZs. I'd try something like a little bit lighter. So I've been like KBSC tapers for donkeys, and I'm not playing as much golf, so I'd quite like to maybe make it a little bit lighter. Just give myself half a chance. I've got like 2 young girls, so I don't get a chance to play that often. So if I make myself an easy set of bats to use, I'll
go and have fun.
I'll try and cheat as much as I can.
In true James fashion, that turned into a blather. Well, what heads do you want?
I think it needs to be like the 770s. Like 770s look really nice. They feel really nice. They're small enough. I've used a set of like Mizuno MP5s for ages, so they're still a bit blady over the top. That's what I like, but there's still a bit of help being like hollow body.
Yeah.
But if I was playing a little bit more, Epon AF-Tour.
Yeah, at the boy. Yeah, there you go. Right, from a fitting standpoint this year, we're obviously fortunate enough that there's 4, 6, 8 and pitching wedge within the matrix. How often would you say we sell a set of irons at 4 iron to pitching wedge or 5 iron to pitching wedge, when the shaft and the grip and the head, it's the same throughout? How often is there more combo sets? Is there more sets just one end through the next?
There's certainly more. I mean, I'm coming from a background of just kind of an OEM fitting 7 irons. So coming in here, like that combo option, you can scratch that itch and just know that you maybe don't need it. I think there probably is a little bit more, but that's down to the quality of the clubs, like we said earlier, 770 and the CB, ZX5 and the ZX7. I think that's where.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. But see, with 7 iron, you talk about golf buzzwords and see loads of longest playable iron chat these days. That seems to be a big one. And that's where we're fortunate. We've got 468 wedge. We can actually look at what your longest playable iron is.
Yeah.
I think you see so much of the guy the other week had +2, really, really good golfer, hitting 6 irons and out the front of bay, amazing, brilliant, really good. And you hit 4 iron and peak height went from 100 feet down to 75 feet. And what he wanted his 4 iron for was hitting in a par 5, so it had to have flight to it.
Yeah.
But if you'd fitted him on a 6 or a 7 iron, he could have a 3 iron if he really wanted. Like the way he was hitting it, you'd have said, let's not bat an eyelid. It's how do we then put something else in there?
Yeah, well, that's kind of the conversation I had with someone earlier on. We've only gone to 6 iron. We're going to look at booking in a hybrid and a fairway wood fitting because, he was amazed to find out that his 4 iron shouldn't peak at 60 feet at like 95 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And he thought it was meant to go lower.
Aye. I think, and that's the big one that you see loads of guys, and there is certain guys that are lower 4 irons not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But when you look at what they're actually trying to get the golf club to do, that's the big question. It's what do you want your 4 iron for?
He never hits it off a tee. He only hits it into greens. It's like, let's not have it go that low. Yeah. Let's look at something else. So he's going back we're going to look at hybrids.
I'm going to go the opposite of that as well. And there's certain guys that you've had in this year that have got combo sets for the sake of making them combo sets. The ones that I find really rogue, I had a couple of guys that have had P770s that have got P790 irons at the bottom end. So P770 is great and it flights it and it goes in the sky. If the lofts are, even if you do try and blend the lofts, we find that loads of guys struggle to flight the longer irons. So then putting a stronger lofted longer iron in, it almost, yes, you make it more forgiving, but you've almost went back the way. You've then given yourself something that you can't flight. So do you want forgiveness or do you want flight? And you've ended up with neither.
It was almost a bit of a fashion piece to get a combo set, wasn't it?
For years it was. Like, you see so much of it. The big one was everybody that had a set of Titleist 712s. There was 4, 5, 6 with a CB and 789 wedge with an MB.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a good idea on paper. And don't get me wrong, it's not like it was necessarily a bad thing, but you're just doing it for the sake of doing it.
I think sometimes like changing shaft in like a longer iron, like making it a little bit lighter, potentially making it a little bit fast that way, get that ball up in the sky. That's something that we've certainly have an awful lot of success with. So if we're in call it a 110 gram steel shaft, like what does like a 90 gram graphite shaft do that's got the same sort of bend profile? We've just taken weight away. So can that golfer add
quicker? Yeah.
Aye. Can they get that speed in, and then does that speed then equate to like a little bit higher peak height? And if it does, fantastic.
You don't have to touch loft.
You want to watch, it's easy.
I think you see so much more of that now we've got in the Matrix, that as opposed to going into a more forgiving iron, you've got P7 UDI, you've got Titleist U505, Srixon ZX. I think from where CG location is in the head, you're actually then allowing it to launch. So it's not just, you're not just putting the forgiving iron in that the brand offer. What you're doing is you're putting the iron in that gives you the flight that you desire. Yeah. You just so happen to get the forgiveness that goes with it.
It's a launch story rather than forgiveness.
Yeah.
Definitely.
What about the other end? So when you're fitting wedges or fitting pitching wedge, do you find guys staying with the set pitching wedge? I know from my experience, I see more of this now, that guys, when they come in, that they really fancy an 8-9 wedge and a blade or whatever else, when they try it, quite often I personally find that they don't change. Like it's, I've actually tried the pitching wedge, I quite like the look of it. Do you see that as well? Or?
I'd say the same thing. I think when you have that sort of story, 468 wedge, I certainly haven't had like that many guys sort of change out the shorter clubs, because they all flow into each other anyway. Yeah. So when you get that like ball flight normalized and it looks the same and it feels the same, it's just simple that way. But like as soon as you go to like a slightly smaller head, and I get like why you'd want to look at something a little bit weirder, but we still want to have like a bit of life at the same time. So I wouldn't say we've had many guys that change like that.
No.
When you look at it from a driver standpoint, if you hit your driver really low, you wouldn't buy an 80-degree driver. And it's the same with irons. You hit your irons really low, you're not going to buy a really strong lofted iron. And I think brands have spent so much time through R&D or whatever else they do to this is what the sole should look like and this is the bounce it should have.
Yeah.
There's so many people or golfers that have got irons bent and manipulated, lofts and whatnot to try and get a desired flight. But I think the kicker is that you're then starting to change bounce and you're changing offsets and you're changing all the bits that manufacturers have done.
Yeah.
I think quite often from our standpoint, if the iron doesn't work, let's move on to the next one. Like rather than trying to make, I would say that from a golfer coming in, when they want to have a look and they've got an idea of what head they want, sometimes that's such a bad thing. Does more harm than good. What do you think?
I think so, yeah. Like if you, just like you said, like adjusting the loft too much when we kind of taking a head that shouldn't do one thing but you're trying to make something else, it just it messes around with that. Like sole design head doesn't interact through the ground the way that you expect it to. It's exactly the same chat like when we go to wedges.
Yeah.
Like if we have a 56 that would bend stronger to a 54, there's all your bounce away. So the sole doesn't do it anymore. So we actually need like a 54 head in the first place. And we chat about that in a wedge, and that's then really clear. But I don't think golfers really get that when it comes to like a pitching wedge. If you change it too much, it's not what it was intended to be anymore, is it?
Nah. I had a guy the other day, and the guy will not mind me saying this either. He had P790s when he came in, Project X5.5. They were too heavy for him now, so what we ended up with, Nippon NS Pro 95 regular was amazing. And he had 790s, he really wanted 245s. He'd hit his mates and the fuel was amazing, so he wanted to get to that stage. He hit them, and even with the right shaft in them, the flight was still flat. It was like 790. So what he found was actually going P770, so your 27-degree 6-iron becomes 29, the launch and flight became amazing. And we then started to get ball flight out of it. He then had a wee urge to try some graphite, and we ended up KBS TGI 80, actually a little bit more stable than the Nippon that he was in, but without the extra mass, and the ball flight was amazing. Peak height from 56 feet, I think he was up at 76. So if somebody hits it flat, he's now standing. When he came in, he was talking about getting a 5 hybrid because he really struggled with his long iron. He's 6 iron, in hindsight, he could have really had a 7 hybrid the way he was hitting his old irons. Yeah. But he's now getting ball flight, and the difference was huge.
And that guy's going to have like half a chance at actually getting the ball to stick on the green now as well.
Yeah.
So if he's able to hit that ball a little bit higher, his land angle is going to come down, carry in total sort of squash up a little bit more, just be easier to play golf with, isn't it?
From all the brands that we've had in so far for next year, have you seen anything coming out that's going to be new? Or with the irons, it's maybe slightly different to drivers, there's things on 2-year cycles that are maybe going to last the test of time. What's going to be good for your customers next year? What are they going to fancy?
So I think the ranges that we have now, there's like it's always a driver year at the beginning of the season. So we've had like a lot of the, I suppose like 25 launches like late 24. So like the new Taylormade, like P7CB, 770, Callaways, they've all got like really comprehensive lines. Mizuno have got an iron coming, which I think could be really quite interesting. Having that kind of, well, the in-between JPX without saying like exactly what it is. When we hit that felt unbelievable.
Really?
I like that. That was clean. Like blade length a little bit longer, so a bit of confidence over the top of the ball, but felt beautiful. So that's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to that. And as always, like Srixon, I can't wait until that is released.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Srixon.
I wish they would bring them out sooner.
Have you seen them? Seen it?
Yeah. Yeah, it looks nice. It looks really nice, really clean. I'm looking forward to testing it and getting it in people's hands. And like I said, going out, the Srixon's the best one to then go out onto the grass and hit, because it's such a unique sole design. That kind of light bulb moment with the customer is just
for that right golfer that just it feels so different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so we're going to put a wrap on this and say what has been the best irons for the year. If we're going to split into categories, let's go low golfer, let's go mid golfer, let's go high handicapper. Who's wanting what section? Aaron, you can go first this time. What you wanting?
Okay, so for low handicap, so it's only been out half the year. P7CB, say low handicap. Honorable mention to ZX7. Mid handicap, has been ZX5. Like it works. It's kind of similar to what I said about the drivers, but it's hard to put a handicap range on it. The 5 works for a lot of people.
It doesn't really matter handicap range.
A lot of people. Yeah. And then high handicap, I have like hot metal high launch, to be honest. Someone who just struggles to get the ball in the air, let's just chuck it up the way. It's nice and forgiving, nice and stable, with a reasonable amount of loft on it.
James, your go.
I would agree.
And I'm going to be hard pushed for this as well, because if you'd asked me to name 3, that's exactly what it would have looked like as well. So it's great that we're all on the same page.
I think T100 has an honourable mention in that sort of low handicapper one again.
Yeah.
Like 100s and like 150s. There's lots of different things there. ZX5 for what we'll call that mid, but it could really be anyone.
That's when you're on that mid handicap. What about whole head construction? 790s, T200s. I think they need to get a mention as well. I think they seem to do well.
They do. I think P790 has been a juggernaut of an iron for a long time now, and continues to be so. Like there's a reason why, like Taylormade sort of have sort of P790 as the flagship iron.
100%.
And the rest of them, like 770s, are kind of based looks wise off the back of the 790. Same sort of thing with the CBs. P790 will continue to be a really solid offering. I think T200.
Aaron likes T200, don't you? You do a wee bit of that.
I do a bit of T200.
I think the sound this year is much better.
Yeah.
I think T200's sort of previous generation sort of sound a bit clicky, like you knew you had a hollow body club. Whereas like new one, it doesn't sound like that at all. It feels and sounds much better.
Yeah.
And I have to agree with Aaron for like a higher handicap golf club, or if we're putting labels on things like that.
Yeah.
That Mizuno, like the 923 and now 925 JPX HL loft.
Ai Smoke HL should probably get a shout out as well there.
Yeah.
Even QI10 at the start of the year, the HL. I think when you look at game improvement irons, or we'll call that, label them as that, the ones that will have had most success with them will be Ai Smoke HL, QI10, HL, and 925.
Running theme there as well.
And I think that's from a brand standpoint. I'm not going to get this on camera, but I had an old boy a couple of 6 months ago. He told me that brands had been playing willy waggling for a long time and saying that my 6-iron goes further than your 6-iron. And I think the reality is they need to come away from that. And golf isn't played based on a simulator and the ball going miles. It's how do we gain control?
They should almost name the HL version the core model and then have a low spin version.
Aye, they do that with a driver. Let's just do it in iron as well.
Loft is the cheat code, isn't it?
Yeah.
100%. Blades, just quickly, we'll touch on it. Do we do any? Is that a thing?
They look good, they feel good, but how can make our life simple? I think there's always going to be a place for a blade in a manufacturer's range. I think what's quite interesting with Titleist, like 620 CB, just hasn't moved, and same sort of thing like 620 CB. So in previous years, when we've seen this with Taylormade, there's a new blade and a new blade and a new blade, but they actually don't change anything. So I think
put the logo in a different position.
We'll move it about.
Doesn't actually move. So I think Titleist have got the right idea that you've got a product. If you want a blade, we have the blade. If you want the player's CB like that, we have that, and then we've got technology elsewhere.
You're gonna see brands do that, aren't you?
I think we're gonna see more of that in sort of 25 and beyond.
Yeah, I think that clubs like P7CB give blade feel, blade performance, not blade forgiveness. They've got much more forgiveness and still deliver all the good bits about a blade.
I'd agree with that. I think, we'll not mention a name, but European Tour Pro was in a couple of months ago and he was talking about he's got his gamer set and there's forgiveness, and it's why make it difficult. If he's 150 yards away or 180 yards away, he's just trying to hit on the green and close. There's no prize for making it difficult. Which when he played with his pals, he had some hickory woods and a set of blades because it was fun.
Yeah.
So as your amateur golfer, it's if we're trying to go out there and post a score, if there's a European Tour player saying that it's not a great idea,
exactly,
are we needing to have amateur golfers doing it?
Yeah.
I think if you look at like if you look at like tour players, like what they used, or what they used an awful lot more like 10 years ago, there was an awful lot more guys playing, you know, sort of straight out sets of blades. Whereas like now they're sort of making that shift into like that CB type of iron. So like golf retail would tell you have to be like a really low handicap. You don't really need to use like a blade. It's got the most loft, it's going to have the most spin. So from that aspect, they can actually be quite forgiving, or in the right context. But we can make our life easy, can't we, boys?
Yes, golf is hard.
Aye, definitely.
Right, guys, we'll have a wrap at that there. But thanks again for listening in. If you want to book yourselves in for a fitting, head over to the website, sggt.co.uk, and hopefully we'll see you in the studio sometime. Cheers.